What did you think of Evander as a fighter coming into that fight?
I just thought he was awesome. I had great admiration and respect for him, but I just never thought he could beat me.
What did you think of the fight?
It wasn't a good one.
It wasn't a good one.
No.
Yeah.
I was hoping he would knock Jake Paul out, just because that's the Cinderella story. I don't have anything against Jake Paul. I like Jake Paul. I think what he's doing is genius.
Mike Tyson has reportedly agreed to fight Evander Holyfield in a trilogy fight. At 58, Tyson tried to relive his glory days in a November bout against Jake Paul, but the showdown fell flat. Fans were left disappointed, longing to see Iron Mike unleash his trademark power. Could a second fight deliver the fireworks they crave? According to Michael Jai White, it all hinges on one crucial factor: the caliber of opponent standing across the ring from the legendary ex-champion. White didn't hold back his thoughts on Tyson, whose record stands at 57. When the conversation shifted to Tyson's potential next opponent, White mentioned Holyfield, 62. As a contender, he'd be eager to see step into the ring. The action star told Vlad TV, "It depends on who he gets in the ring with, you know? I mean, he could get in there with Holyfield again." The American actor also highlighted Holyfield's most recent bout, which was against Victor Belfort. Unfortunately for the real deal, the fight concluded with a first-round knockout defeat. Michael Jai White continued, "Did you see Holyfield's last fight? He lost to Vitor Belfort. He was knocked out by Vitor Belfort." The Spawn star isn't the only one championing the idea of rekindling the rivalry between these two legends. Evander Holyfield, with an impressive record of October 2nd, 44, has also voiced interest in completing a trilogy with Tyson, though he suggested it might follow Tyson's bout with the Problem Child. However, fans may already feel like the trilogy is unfolding right before their eyes. Holyfield took to social media, hinting that fans were clamoring for a trilogy bout between them. Tyson's reply, however, was nothing short of entertaining. The Brooklyn native wrote in the comments, "I love you, brother, but the trilogy is our friendship." Ultimately, Holyfield conceded to Tyson's suggestion that their relationship would be the basis for the trilogy match. Holyfield declared in a separate post, "But Mike's right. The trilogy is our friendship and respect. The fans have spoken. No need for gloves to keep this friendship strong." Holyfield and Tyson clashed twice, with Holyfield claiming victory in their first bout in 1996, securing the WBA title. However, it was their notorious rematch, marked by Tyson's infamous ear-biting incident, that cemented its place in boxing history. At least now, fans can safely rule out Holyfield as a potential opponent for Tyson. Notably, Evander Holyfield attended the high-profile boxing match between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, and the experience sparked an idea. Perhaps it's time for one final round in the ring. Paul secured a unanimous decision victory over Tyson in their bout. Tyson pushed through all 8 rounds against the YouTuber-turned-boxer. After the match, he disclosed a near-fatal battle with an ulcer earlier this year, a health scare that forced the fight's original July date to be postponed to November. Holyfield looked as though he was prepared for a final battle with Tyson. A trilogy bout seems unlikely for either fighter. Tyson's clash with Paul marked Iron Mike's first sanctioned appearance in the ring since 2005. Meanwhile, Holyfield last stepped into a sanctioned fight in 2011 when he faced Brian Nielsen. Regarding their boxing endeavors, both fighters endorsed Jake and Logan Paul in a 2022 interview with Fox News Digital. Jake Paul's victory over Tyson put him at 11-1. Meanwhile, World Boxing News revealed that Tyson was offered a $25 million check in 2021 to face Holyfield in a rematch. Iron Mike turned down the hefty sum, only to later accept $20 million, $5 million less, to square off with a YouTuber 3 years after. Since the beginning, the entire fiasco hasn't made much sense, it's reasonable to say. According to WBN's report, when the proposal was presented to Tyson, Holyfield's manager Chris Lawrence made a public spectacle in an attempt to pressure Tyson into agreeing. However, the tactic proved ineffective. Representatives of Evander Holyfield expressed frustration after Mike Tyson's representatives refused to accept a $25 million guarantee from Team Holyfield. The offer was to participate in Tyson v. Holyfield 3 at the Hard Rock Stadium to kick off Memorial Day weekend, they said. They added, "The parties have been in intense negotiations for several months. Team Holyfield sincerely believed a deal was imminent, especially after the Hard Rock threw its support behind the project. There were multiple other offers conveyed to Team Tyson. However, Team Tyson's demands recently became untenable, not what Mike Tyson initially agreed in direct conversations with Holyfield." Following the release, Lawrence made an appearance on SiriusXM's AK and Barrack show. He said, "We want what's fair for Evander in this situation. Evander is not a B-side to anyone, let alone Mike Tyson. He He won the first 2 fights. Mike and Evander verbally agreed to a 50-50 split for this. We want what was promised to us. Hopefully, Mike's team recognizes what a global event this would be. Evander has 1 more fight left in the tank, and this was it. After Tyson lost to Paul on points in Texas, The Real Deal quickly reiterated his offer to him, even though Holyfield was 62. As of now, it appears that neither will be entering the ring. On the other hand, Jake Paul's company, Most Valuable Promotions, which collaborated with Netflix for the November 15th live-streamed showdown between Paul and Mike Tyson, has addressed accusations suggesting the fight was manipulated or staged, following the wide circulation of incorrect and baseless claims that undermine the integrity of the Paul versus Tyson event. Most Valuable Promotions would like to set the record straight regarding the contractual agreements and the nature of the fight, the company said in a statement Monday. The MVP statement continued, rigging a professional boxing match is a federal crime in the U.S. Paul versus Tyson was a professional match sanctioned by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulations. Both fighters in good faith performed to the best of their abilities with the goal of winning the fight. There were absolutely no restrictions, contractual or otherwise, around either fighter. Each boxer was able to use his full arsenal to win the fight. Any agreement to the contrary would violate TDLR boxing rules. In a highly anticipated heavyweight clash at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, 27-year-old Paul emerged victorious over the 58-year-old Tyson, securing a unanimous decision after 8 rounds of intense action. MVP, in its statement, said, "Trash talk and speculation are common in sports, and athletes and promoters need to tolerate nonsensical commentary, jokes, and opinions. But suggesting anything other than full effort from these fighters is not only naive, but an insult to the work they put into their craft and to the sport itself." They further mentioned, "It is further illogical and inane that MVP, in the debut of a hopeful long-term partnership with the world's biggest streamer, an organization that made its first ever foray into live professional sports with Paul versus Tyson, would even so much as consider such a perverse violation of the rules of competition." Paul, a social media star and YouTuber who started a professional boxing career, and business partner Nakisa Badarian formed MVP in 2021. Badarian said in a statement, "This is not the first time Jake Paul has faced unfounded skepticism or outright disbelief as a professional athlete, and frankly, the claim that his bout must have been rigged is just the latest backhanded compliment to come his way. As long as Jake continues to exceed expectations, there will always be those who try to discredit his achievements. We embrace the doubt. It only fuels Jake to work harder and achieve greater success." In the November 19th episode of his brother Logan Paul's podcast, Impulsive, Paul also addressed claims that the Tyson fight was a sham. On the podcast, Jake Paul addressed claims that his fight with Tyson was rigged, explaining that people criticized Tyson's performance by comparing his training on the pads to his showing in the ring. Paul argued that Tyson's performance differed because he was reacting to Paul's power, speed, agility, and footwork, which allowed him to evade punches. He also remarked on Tyson's elusiveness during their fight, admitting that Tyson was difficult to hit and that he missed many punches due to Tyson's ability to sidestep effectively.
Yep, and people are like, "Oh, it's rigged because look at him on the pads, but he didn't do this in the fight." Because someone is punching back, you dumb f***s. Like, people don't realize my power.
That is true.
And my jab and my speed and my ability and my footwork to get out of the way of those punches. So then all of a sudden he's throwing at literally air. He can't land those punches on me.
Was he hard to hit?
He was hard to hit. He was elusive. I was missing
I can't believe he can move like that.
a lot of punches. I don't know how he gets off to the side like that.
You know what's impressive is after he gets off to the side, and then he'll come up and parry a little bit.
Yeah.
Like he's still like tuned in with his defense. His defense was impregnable, impetuous.
The Netflix live stream of the Tyson-Paul match faced numerous technical glitches, including freezing video and reduced quality. Despite these issues, the event still attracted an estimated 108 million global viewers on average per minute, making it the most streamed global sporting event ever, according to Netflix. At its peak, the match saw 65 million concurrent streams worldwide, with 38 million of those coming from the United States. Mike Tyson's unsuccessful comeback fight against Jake Paul has had a domino effect, derailing plans for another legendary former heavyweight champion Vladimir Klitschko, to return to the ring. As reported by the Daily Mail, the 48-year-old Ukrainian's attempt to end his retirement and challenge IBF world champion Daniel Dubois has been shelved. Klitschko had expressed interest in competing for the IBF heavyweight title against Dubois in Saudi Arabia on February 22nd, but the Brit is now exploring alternative opponents. However, Saudi boxing officials were determined to avoid a repeat of the spectacle earlier this month when 58-year-old Tyson was thoroughly beaten by YouTube star-turned-boxer Paul in a unanimous decision at the Dallas Cowboys AT&T Stadium. The 30-year age gap between Tyson and Paul was glaring, and a potential clash between Dubois and Klitschko would feature a similar 20-year disparity. Klitschko has been inactive for nearly a decade, with his most recent bout taking place at Wembley Stadium in 2017 against Anthony Joshua. The loss, his second consecutive defeat, followed a world title loss to Tyson Fury a year and a half earlier. The former world heavyweight champion is eyeing a return to the ring, but the IBF is reluctant to approve the bout as a voluntary defense for Dubois, particularly following his knockout win over Joshua earlier this year. Nevertheless, Klitschko's potential comeback is bound to draw significant attention, as the boxing icon still holds the record for the longest world heavyweight championship reign, a staggering 4,382 days. Although Klitschko is prepared to return to the ring, he has not overlooked his responsibilities. In light of the ongoing war in Ukraine, he remains fit and ready for military service. Meanwhile, his brother Vitaly, former heavyweight champion and Kiev's prominent leader, is equally committed to defending their country. The topic of Ukraine ignited fresh controversy when Klitschko clashed verbally with podcast titan Joe Rogan. The dispute unfolded after Rogan suggested in one of his episodes that U.S. weapons in Ukraine could trigger World War III. Klitschko quickly responded, "Joe Rogan, I listened to your latest podcast. I am sending you this video to let you know that I disagree." Meanwhile, Mike Tyson's return to the ring drew millions of viewers on Netflix, and many couldn't help but notice the former undisputed heavyweight champion doing something unusual with his glove during the fight. In his post-fight interview, he was asked, "Was it a mouthpiece issue, or were you just biting on your glove?" Tyson replied, "I have a habit of biting my glove. I have a biting fixation." During their first bout in 1996, the once dreaded knockout artist famously cut Evander Holyfield's ear. When Paul wore a $200,000 diamond ear protector to one of their news conferences, he played into fears that Tyson may do the same to him. Teddy Atlas, a member of Tyson's training team during his teenage years, asserts that the strange behavior exhibited during the fight had no connection to a fixation on biting. The boxing coach and commentator claimed it was all a performance designed to convince fans that Tyson remained a fearsome fighter, capable of executing wild feats in the ring. Atlas said, "There's a lot of questions out there about the thumb biting. Mike Tyson biting his thumb through the glove. First of all, that's something that he did in his amateur days, he did in his pro days, and now, of course, he did it again. For people that follow Mike Tyson, his career, they've seen it before. People were saying Tyson's smart, he's witty. He knows what to say and the importance of having that image." He added, "That's why he got all the money. It wasn't about what he had left at 58. It was about what he maybe might have and the image. The scary guy, the guy who's going to eat your children, the guy who's the baddest man on the planet." When people asked Tyson about the biting, he knew what to say. Again, keep that image, keep that myth. It's important in these kinds of realms that they believe that he's still the boogeyman. Atlas shared his thoughts on Mike Tyson's behavior, recalling Tyson's response when asked why he bit. "I've got a biting sensation." Atlas interpreted this as a calculated move to reinforce Tyson's brand image, suggesting the narrative of Tyson biting his thumb to avoid biting his opponent's ear was a clever promotional strategy. However, Atlas believed it went deeper, pointing out that Tyson had exhibited similar behavior in the past. He likened it to a pacifier, explaining that even someone like Tyson experiences nervousness, doubt, and fear. According to Atlas, the biting was a way to suppress those emotions, a coping mechanism to deal with insecurities and uneasiness. Following his loss to Jake Paul, Mike Tyson wasted no time in calling out Logan Paul, Jake's older brother, for a potential fight. After cooling off, the veteran boxer addressed his comeback bout in a social media statement, where he reflected on the medical challenges he faced leading up to the fight. Tyson also hinted that his bout with Jake Paul might mark the final chapter of his boxing career. Tyson said, "This is one of those situations when you lost but still won. I'm grateful for last night. No regrets to get in ring one last time. I almost died in June. Had 8 blood transfusions. Lost half my blood and 25 pounds in hospital and had to fight to get healthy to fight, so I won. To have my children see me stand toe-to-toe and finish 8 rounds with a talented fighter half my age in front of a packed Dallas Cowboys stadium is an experience that no man has the right to ask for. Thank you. When Mike Tyson faced Jake Paul, Joe Rogan was concerned about his health. After the fight, Paul mentioned that he had intentionally carried the boxing legend through the rounds to prevent causing him harm, a gesture that Rogan appreciated. On a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, Rogan shared his thoughts on Mike Tyson's fight with Jake Paul, expressing relief that Tyson made it through the match unscathed. Rogan admitted he had been rooting for Tyson to knock out Jake Paul, calling it a Cinderella story. Rogan's backing of Tyson isn't a slight against Paul. The UFC commentator and renowned podcast host commended the YouTuber-turned-boxer for his achievements and the attention he's brought to the sport. On his podcast, Joe Rogan shared his perspective on Jake Paul, stating that he had no issues with the young boxer and even admired his approach. Rogan described Paul as a genius for carving out a lucrative career while proving himself as a legitimate boxer. He criticized those who dislike Paul, calling them idiots. However, Rogan expressed concern for Mike Tyson, noting his age of 58 and recalling how much he admired Tyson as a childhood hero.
I think what he's doing is he's making insane amounts of money. He's having a great time. He's a legit boxer. He's absolutely a legit boxer.
Yeah, you can't hate on somebody that works that hard.
You cannot.
I would never hate on...
If you do, you're an idiot.
No, I was like, you know what? This guy is really driven. Him and his brother, they're like driven. Like it's not at all. Everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
so they were YouTubers or they were on Disney Channel. Who cares?
What you do with it?
But the reality is, Mike is 58 years old, and I was worried.
Yeah.
You know, I love that guy, and he was a hero of mine when I was a kid. So to see him, 58 years old fighting, part of me was like,
him fought a lot of the same demons, and we were there for each other.
On the other hand, Sylvester Stallone seems to have changed his mind about the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson boxing match, no longer believing it was staged. The Hollywood icon recently took to social media to share his thoughts after watching the fight again, expressing his satisfaction with Paul's victory. To provide some background, Stallone originally thought the Paul-Tyson bout was a staged event, designed as a cash grab for the legendary boxer. After the fight, Stallone took to Instagram, advising Paul to appreciate that Tyson was simply playing a role rather than truly fighting. He even labeled Tyson's performance as Oscar-winning, sharing his thoughts in a post. Business is business. Sometimes you have to do hard things and sacrifice for the sake of helping your family. I have known this unbelievable athlete since he was 19 years old, and what we saw was him giving one of the greatest Oscar-winning performances of all time. Please, Jake, be grateful. He spared your life. Trust me. Paul was far from pleased with the Hollywood legend's claim that he had rigged the fight, and he quickly fired back in the comments. The problem child wasted no time in calling out Stallone's view, even throwing jabs at his supposed facial surgeries, stating, "Always looked up to you as a kid, but now you are a spreader of lies against my name. Sad to see you fall. Maybe it's all the plastic surgery." It appears that Stallone took Paul's words to heart, revisiting the screen to reassess the fight. The Rocky icon then revised his original post, offering an apology for his earlier caption and updating it with a new message. "Just to set my personal record straight, upon second, viewing the best man won that night. My apologies, keep punching." More than 15 days have passed since the lackluster bout between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Yet experts continue to weigh in with their interpretations of what transpired inside the ring at AT&T Stadium. Many of them are still trying to unpack why the event, which was expected to deliver so much more, ultimately left fans and analysts alike feeling let down by the underwhelming spectacle. A new analysis seeks to clarify the controversy over whether Tyson blew the fight by his lack of aggression from the third round onwards, or whether Jake Paul had to carry his opponent to avoid humiliating him in front of everyone because of his obvious physical limitations due to age. In truth, Iron Mike finished the bout swinging wildly and wearing a knee brace on his right leg. He appeared drained, on the verge of being knocked out while Paul seemed to hold back, likely trying to spare one of the greatest legends from further embarrassment. Chael Sonnen, a retired UFC fighter, shared his insights on his YouTube channel about the events of November 15th. He kicked off his analysis with a thought-provoking comparison to the much-hyped but ultimately underwhelming clash between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, a fight that, despite dominating media attention, failed to live up to expectations. During their bout, 47-year-old Mayweather let 36-year-old McGregor land some shots, moving gracefully around the ring and putting on a show for the crowd. But when he chose to end it, he knocked out the notorious one. Reflecting on Paul's fight, The former MMA fighter observed that the problem child followed a similar pattern, but unlike Mayweather, he never opted to close the fight before the scheduled end. Sonnen refuted that. "While I've never seen anyone carry another guy, I've never seen anyone let a guy survive. I can't say that anymore." And he added, "Jake let Mike survive for 2 rounds, halfway through the 7th round and all through the 8th. But it didn't affect the outcome at all. It's being called into question. It was very clear that Jake allowed Mike to survive." Jake Paul admitted after the fight that he did not try to go for the knockout in the last round. Sonnen said, "Jake then did a press conference at the end, while trying to preserve sportsmanship, while trying to be polite to his fallen opponent. Jake made it clear that, towards the end, he did in fact look for the bell rather than look for the KO. In the end, he commended the impressive progress Paul had made with his boxing skills, highlighting the refinement of his swift movements, footwork, and stamina. These enhancements enabled him to stay just out of Tyson's range, dodging his strikes with such agility that it often seemed as though Tyson's punches were suspended in midair as Paul effortlessly countered. No matter how much people try to rationalize Jake Paul's win over Mike Tyson, seeing a childhood boxing legend fall to a YouTuber-turned-boxer just doesn't sit right. When the fight was first announced, fans anticipated Tyson would return to his former glory to take down the problem child. But what did they overlook while fantasizing about Tyson's comeback? His age, of course. The 30-year age gap between the two fighters made a huge impact. And according to a respected combat sports insider, Tyson's loss shouldn't come as a shock. During an insightful discussion on his YouTube channel, renowned combat sports journalist Kevin Iole briefly shared his thoughts on Mike Tyson's potential showdown with Jake Paul. The senior journalist emphasized that the match was not scripted, and fans should look at the outcome through a practical lens. He said, "A lot of you fans so badly wanted to see the old Mike Tyson return. And no matter how many of us told you it wasn't going to happen, you believed it anyway. You wanted to see Jake Paul get knocked out, and you wanted to see Mike Tyson make his comeback. Believe me, I understand that." The journalist highlighted the 30-year age gap between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, a key factor when evaluating cardio and endurance in a fight. Iole elaborated on how Tyson skillfully utilized social media tactics to craft an image of himself as sharper than he truly was. He noted that, despite Tyson's age, he wasn't physically fit enough to compete at that level anymore. However, through the strategic use of social media, Tyson managed to convince the public that he was still in peak condition. Despite his reputation, Kevin Iole couldn't help but acknowledge the impressive shape of the aging fighter. For a 58-year-old, showing up to the fight in such prime condition is no small accomplishment, a true testament to Kid Dynamite's dedication. But Iole added, "Give Mike Tyson credit. There are very few 58-year-old men who can go 8 rounds with anybody, even if they're just 2-minute rounds. That takes a lot of cardio, and just doing what Mike did was remarkable. But to expect Mike to come out there and somehow become the 1992 or 1995 version of himself, or even the 1986 version of himself when he won the title, was just asking too much. I said this to so many people. The fall of a childhood icon was something that few in the combat sports world could have anticipated." Many fans accused Jake Paul of taking advantage of Mike Tyson's troubled financial situation to secure an edge in their fight. Rumors also swirled, suggesting that the bout may have been fixed, but was it truly the case? Let's explore. In a hard-fought 8-round bout, Jake Paul triumphed over Mike Tyson by unanimous decision, with the judges scoring it 80, 72, 79, 73, and 79. 73 in his favor. Despite the clear win, the legitimacy of Paul's victory was called into question amid accusations of fight manipulation. However, Most Valuable Promotions, the organization behind the event, swiftly denied these claims, dismissing them as purely fictional. Meanwhile, Jake Paul's victory over Mike Tyson hasn't shifted Claressa Shields' stance on a potential matchup with the legendary boxer. In fact, she told TMZ Sports that she remains confident she'd dominate El Gallo in the ring without hesitation. She shared her take on everything Paul following his unanimous decision victory against Iron Mike, including the criticism he's faced throughout the years. Shields believes the backlash isn't much about his skill set, but more about his choice of opponents. Shields said, "He's bringing more eyes to the sport, and that's what you need." Hopefully, everybody who is involved on that side can keep building from that and also create a real blueprint to where it can be used for generations to come. So, that's all from today's video. If you enjoyed it, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell icon so you never miss our upcoming videos.